Tell me, at the beginning of the 2024 season, did you put Arizona State, future preseason Big 12 conference favorite, onto your bingo card and put a stamp on it, or whatever you put onto a bingo card? I don't know. I'm not that old yet. But I love this for Arizona State because whether or not they live up to that billing, Tempe has been starved for a team like this, for a coach like Kenny Dillingham that wants to make it work there, that understands what it means to be a Sun Devil and what that place can be. This has long been described as the sleeping giant of the Pac-12, RIP, and going into the Big 12, it was, oh boy, they're in a messy spot, back-to-back 3-9 seasons. Then they shocked the world. They have, according to FanDuel, the best national championship odds of any Big 12 team, and they are tied with Kansas State for the best conference championship odds. Now, Kansas State being there, that's a sneaky team because they were rising before the season last year, and they had the spotlight, and they had the attention, and then they went to BYU, and there was a crazy game, and they got blown out, and it spiraled out of control. And you thought they would bounce back. They picked up a nice road win against Colorado, and then they kept going. And then it just didn't work out. And they lost to that Arizona State team on their home field in Manhattan, by the way. So I love that Arizona State is in that position because they are deserving of that sort of recognition. And the fans deserve down there at Arizona State to have this sort of expectation. And they're also completely worthy of having such an expectation because Arizona State is losing Cam Skattebo. That's not great. He was, as we saw in the playoff quarterfinal against Texas, a big part of what they did offensively. But you are bringing in an accomplished running back in Kanye Udo from Army to be a tailback. He's not going to be a do-it-all like Cam Skattebo was. Nobody is what Cameron Skattebo was for Arizona State's offense last year. But you're getting another year of Sam Levitt. His best wide receiver, Jordan Tyson, is returning. They have hit the transfer portal in a couple of other key spots with guys who you go, wait, that's like a power four starting caliber player, not someone they're trying to elevate from or give an opportunity to that no one else was willing to get. They're not going after those sorts of guys. So I love what Arizona State is doing. I love that they're getting that level of respect and attention because they deserve it. They deserve it, not just because of the season they had, because of what their fans have gone through, but because of the way that they're backing it up in the offseason. That is a really important point to put here. So would I have Arizona State as my favorite in the Big 12 if I were making Spencer Sportsbook? Yeah, I probably would. Now, third in the odds, tied for third with Baylor, getting to them in just a moment, is BYU. So BYU, again, fascinating football team because BYU fans will readily tell you throughout the course of last season, I did not believe in them for a very long time. Eventually, that lack of belief played itself out, but it went on far longer than I could have justified keeping that particular take. So I had to retire it. We had a nice ongoing joke weekly where I'd pick against BYU, even though I thought they were going to win. But they won their first 9 games and then lost 2 of their last 3. Missed the playoff, never got any real consideration there. But BYU brings back a lot of guys, a lot of guys, couple wide receivers, their quarterback, Jake Retzlaff, Harrison Taggart on defense. Like they're bringing back a core that makes me think their floor is pretty high. I just don't know what their ceiling is. I don't quite know. But when you go through the Big 12 and say, well, then Spencer, who would you put as third in the Big 12 championship odds? Because I do like Kansas State. I would have Arizona State slightly above them. They have the same odds at plus 550, according to FanDuel. I would have Kansas State slightly below at plus 600 and Arizona State at plus 550, if that's the appropriate number for the favorite in the Big 12, which is once again going to be among the most open, maybe the most open and competitive conference championship races in the country because the favorite in the ACC, Clemson, plus 270. In the Big 10, Ohio State, plus 155. Texas in the SEC, plus 210. Do you realize the size of that gap between your number one favorite? Oh, gosh, it's just such a fun conference to be able to follow along with. But BYU, I really, really like. I don't know if I love, at least not yet. We'll see how I feel after spring football. But Baylor in there at plus 700. It feels like an overreaction. I know Baylor had a really strong end of the year, and there's a lot of momentum, and Sawyer Robertson's back at quarterback. That's all great. That's all great. I don't know, man. I there was so much bad, wrong, not good, bad feeling going into last year that they were able to pull it out, and by the way, should have won one extra game, except they allowed a Hail Mary, almost two, against Colorado on the road. If they don't give up a Hail Mary, then they have another win, and it feels even better. So I get them being there, but here's where the Big 12 gets really fun. If you have a question about a team and they're they're too high, they're getting too much respect, they shouldn't be there in the odds, the way I feel about Baylor, I have to go, well, who am I replacing them with? Who am I going to look at in the rest of this just beautiful conference for a conference championship race and go, yeah, I'm going with them? Arizona's dead last, by the way. I'm just going to let that sit out there because I don't think you would have said that before last season either. But those two programs, Arizona State and Arizona, they have completely flipped from the top and bottom positions in the Big 12 relative to the rest of the conference. And the one team I do think is really underrated here is Texas Tech. They're behind Kansas in the odds at plus 950, and Kansas is plus 750. Now, I'm optimistic that Lance Leipold can have a bounce-back season with the Jayhawks after a tremendously disappointing and personally hurtful letdown of a season. But hey, it happens. I forgive. I just don't forget. Texas Tech, though, has one of the highest-rated transfer portal classes in the entire country. It has been consistently top 5. They recently got bumped out of the top spot, but they are going aggressively in the transfer portal. They have got Baron Morton back at quarterback. Joey McGuire's got another year under his belt. They're making a change at defense coordinator. That was plainly obvious that it needed to happen, and well, lo and behold, it did. Not everybody does that, by the way. Not everybody does that. I like giving teams and coaches credit for attacking mistakes and not waiting around. Blake Baker hired at LSU last year, Danton Lynn at USC. Why? Because those coaches finally realized, yeah, this is not good enough. This is a problem. It's not up to our standard. Did they wait too long? Maybe. But at least they got around to it. And Texas Tech, if they could play just a little bit better on defense. Remember, Abilene Christian almost went in there and beat them in overtime. It came down to a 2-point play. That's an FCS team. That should never happen. But I don't worry about Texas Tech's offense. I worry about Texas Tech's defense. That might be why they're so low. But the haul they have brought in the transfer portal, which includes some impact guys, that is not to be overlooked. So that's a team that I think is a little bit low. Iowa State's right behind them at plus 1,000. This conference at Colorado, for those curious, is at plus 1,600 behind both those teams and tied with TCU. You talk about sneaky underrated teams in the Big 12 conference. TCU is up there. And I said all year about TCU, they're a waste of a good offense, because they were. They were really good offense. Josh Hoover had one of the best quarterback seasons in arguably the best quarterback conference in all of college football this past year, the Big 12. It was either them or the SEC. It was certainly not the Big 10 or the ACC or any G5 league, that's for sure. Those two were a step above the rest, and Josh Hoover was just really good. But their defense wasn't very good. Like Texas Tech, waste of a really good offense. That's a theme in the Big 12 at times, at least historically it has been. But I think Texas Tech is slightly undervalued there. But the chaos that's going to ensue in this league, you just can't look away. It's not a car wreck you can't look away from. It's the Mona Lisa of college football conference championship races. You just look at it and go, I don't want to stop looking at it. And guess what? We never have to. Appreciate everyone listening. I will see you next time. And until then, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.